I started uploading videos yesterday without even because there's no structure to any of them. It's like, so let me just try to cover a few things that I want to say, and first there's uh, Charlie coming by the other night, and he starts telling me, he's like, Lisa passed away, and I'm like, what? I didn't, it's like there's like no. What got to me is that when I looked it up to see if he was telling me the truth, even though, it's like I know he was saying, because he said he heard it from somebody, and I'm like, yeah, all right. So I look it up. Lisa's passed away, and it's really, really interesting that she passed away right before I left for that trip to go see my mother down in Florida. And the reason why that's interesting is because I've already mentioned that uh, the guy Lambert that started the podcast for the Kristen Smart and the Paul Flores thing, he started his podcast right around the same time, around about the same time that I was talking on the phone, buying that ticket. Now, Lisa died on the 23rd. He started the podcast on the 30th. At some point around there, maybe a little after there, because my hot water was turned off, and I got tired of the bullshit little games, and there was not, I'm gonna go see my mom. I'm not dealing with this shit. I said, so I buy a ticket in advance, but I'm not sure when I bought the ticket. But it would be real interesting if at some point, it doesn't matter. What's interesting to me is that freaking, if let's say I bought that ticket sometime in like beginning of October, then that means I was talking about it a week prior. And the only person that I was talking to was the one person I could definitely get on the phone. Pretty much. So, that's why I find that very, very interesting of her passing away on that day, because that's a couple days before this podcast starts. Now, the podcast, all right, I'm not even sure or aware. I'm not aware, obviously, because I'm not even thinking about Paul Flores or any of it. But it's funny that I leave on like December 8th or 9th, maybe something like that. And like a day or two later, I know that I ended up in jail. Like, so it took me a day to get down. And then it took me, a day, I was there for like a day or so. I bump into Pop Smoke, the rapper kid who passed away. The day before, I get into a fight with my brother. And Sheriff, Robert Lee Ashley, comes through the door. The same person that I met multiple years ago, many years ago, when I was still wearing Janko jeans. I mean, that's how long ago. Like, I was like, wow, that's a fucking long time, man. So that's the point. It's like, that's right around all of the other stuff taking place. And the point being is that, and I've already went into all the other interesting details of all this shit. So my point being is that, I go to jail. Now, I missed the last Christmas to spend with my mom alive. All right? COVID happens. I come out of jail. I buy a brand new cell phone, which I'm wondering if it's even yo, man, it's so funny because it's like there's certain things going through my head about that too. But the point being is that it's the only thing that shows up on my credit. What? When I look mine, it's the only thing. Wow, man, fuck yous. So, the point being is that, you know, I'm stuck down there. Even when I come out, I find out this kid, Pop Smoke, died. I'm looking at him. I realize it's the kid. Well, I mean, I went over the storyline like 1,000 times, you know, and I'm fucking tired of it. But you know, then Gerald Schur passes away, and then a few days later, my mom gets rushed to the hospital. Then she passes away on September 12th. In between, obviously, September 11th and September 13th. Now, as far as September 11th goes, I was already bringing up the whole Church of Scientology thing just recently. And what was happening inside the church. Okay. And then there was... because there's a lot there. It's just... I don't have time to exactly focus on what is what. So then there's September 13th, which is the day that actually Tupac actually died. Now, I went over the fact that, you know, Tupac was shot on September 7th, and the fact that, you know, Mac Miller also died on September 7th. And the weird connections with all of that, only due to me, of course, and Ari, due to her concert blowing up, and certain things that were said to me 10 or more years prior. And the whole, you know, me being thrown into a, you know, now I'm skipping around, right? But the main thing is that I'm still down in Florida in 2020 up until around about, I think I came back in like mid-November. It might have been, yeah, I think it was like mid-November. And that's the whole point too, is that yeah, whatever. The point being is that, so I'm back. Maybe it was end of October, mid-November. You know, the point being is that now I'm back here. And 2 weeks go by, the landlord comes. He brings the woman in the back to my front door. Okay. He's like, I want my rent money. I'm like, oh, you want your rent money? I'm like, well, I want my hot water turned on. Because at this point, there's still no hot water in my house. And the hot water has been turned off from 3 months before I left. In other words, the minute the hot water turned off, that's when I stopped paying my rent. It's simple like that. Now, 2 years later, there's all this corrosion coming out of the top of the fucking tank. Not to mention, I got tired of fucking, I said this 8 years ago, that the fucking water was coming out fucking brown, green, whatever the fuck, blue. You know, And that was never ever even looked into. And, and then there's all this corrosion coming out of the fucking top of the freaking thing. And it's like, this guy didn't even walk down in the basement at that point. I would have walked with him. Didn't even check. But he wants his money, right? Meanwhile, okay, now this didn't go down yet. But meanwhile, the other thing with the squirrel. But yet, for the past 2 years, or so, close to 2 years, before I left, leading up to before I left, and then on top of that, the whole 2020. So maybe about a year and a half. I was going off about, this is definitely the fucking house that they tried to kill me in the back part of the house, in the attic, with a little girl's dead body. And, it's just really funny that I get back around about, I think, November. December goes by. Whatever. January. A friend of mine comes to see me. And I think it was either right before that or right after that, a freaking squirrel brings me a human foot bone to my front porch. My other grandma, because there was the grandma that raised me, who I called my mom, who passed away already in 2020. My other grandmother, all of a sudden, after my friend comes to see me, about a month later, her daughter dies. And then about 3 days after that, my grandmother, who supposedly was in all right health. I mean, she had some issues, but when I talked to her a few days prior to that, she goes, everything should be fine. And she dies 3 days later. Whatever. All I'm saying is that to me is, and on top of that, there's the human foot bone brought by Squirrel Detective to my front porch. It's like, also, right at that same time period, 2021, this is why I said all this in the first place, because in 2021 is also when I realized about the Paul Flores, Kristen Smart thing. Wow. And that's why I find it real fucking interesting that the minute I start mentioning that I know this situation, that the sheriff's department, who has given me eviction paperwork, okay, who has given me eviction paperwork, okay, it's real funny that I signed a witness statement against Paul Flores, because Paul Flores supposedly, but told me that he murdered Kristen Smart. Where he murdered her, how he murdered her, which I didn't know how much to believe of this because of other spirituality freaking interesting things that I didn't even realize then I could do. The bottom line is that I didn't know how much of this to believe, but I was like, okay, I'll just freaking roll with it. Went down to the sheriff's department. I fill out a witness statement. And when I'm filling out this statement, I say, he told me that he did this in order to set me up, my family up, which is also his family and a whole bunch of other families at the same time. Just like, they're like, oh, but that's not important. So I don't know if I wrote that in the witness statement, but I do know I showed locations of things. Now, over the course of a few days or so. But the thing is, and I'm jumping ahead, is that once I wrote that witness statement, the sheriff's department has me sign a witness protection form. Wow. I don't want to sign the witness protection form. Well, if you don't sign this, we're going to throw this away, and then we're going to have to say that you were lying. It's like, wait, what? Is that a threat? And that's exactly what it was. We're going to have to arrest you. That is under threat. Now, you're lying. And you're fucking... Ooh. I can't even. I can't even. Do you understand that this is all proof? This is so fucking insane that so that's what that is. And you know, upon this, it's like that I'm pretty sure concludes the other contract. I'm pretty sure at this point. Now, granted, I don't even know if that paperwork is real or not. It probably is. More than likely, the paperwork is real, right? And I say that because there was the Suffolk County cop car, of course, but the sheriff that delivered the paperwork wasn't exactly wearing full gear. Now, that's where I could sit there and say that personally, due to things that I know, now that I'm somewhat aware of things that I'm remembering from different scenarios in life, there's a chance that he was not on duty. But it doesn't matter with the paperwork, I think. I don't know. So the bottom line is that at the same time, I mean, honestly, it looked like a freaking. I'm saying, damn, is that one of those tearaway fucking stripper uniforms? Because that would just be horrible. That they just sent a freaking a sheriff or an officer who was going to his second job, which is a male stripper, to my door to deliver me paperwork. That would be the fucking narrative of all of this bullshit. So either way, just a guess, you know. And yeah, and then there's the other contracts that I signed. So now I signed a contract. The 3 contracts: FBI, CIA, DOJ. Then I signed a contract also with the IP address, right? A somewhat business contract, which it's a little bit more complicated in the long run with that whole thing. I'm pretty sure, because of due to other anchors in place. But then I also signed a contract with the Church of Scientology, of course, which led up to 9/11, by the way, and that whole storyline. And you're welcome. And then there was the contract that I signed with the what was it? The Association of Behavioral Science. You see, this is where there's only so many of those contracts ever, and that's it. I don't care what you got. There's only so many of them to sign. Known about worldwide. Can you guess who signed one? And then I remembered the book, and then I remembered it was so fucking insane. Like, I'm thinking I signed that contract when I was like 13 or 14. I don't exactly remember when I signed that contract, but I do know it was when I was young, and it was before I got into trouble. See, and that's a part of this too. Is now I'm saying to myself, it's like, did they? So were you aware of this shit? Like I'm not even sure if they were aware of the shit that literally like it's like, wow, man. It's like, wow, man. This is crazy. This is fucking crazy. If I signed that contract before 15, it doesn't matter. It's freaking, that's the whole point. It's like those contracts, there's no freaking, so there's certain things about the contracts that are completely freaking, it's just the way it is. But the point being is, when I went to go fight my first court case with the guy who came into my neighborhood, who fucking outweighed me, who outaged me, and did I say outweighed me? Yeah. The dude who swung on me and I kicked the living shit out of him, and he wrote up a faulty police report because he got his ass kicked by a fucking kid. You see, there's a lot of people that were fucking jealous of all the things that I was doing. That's the way I look at it. And that was happening way before all this shit. Way before all this shit that I've talked about. I never brought this stuff up. Like, once the only time I brought this shit up is if somebody brought it up to me. Because how the fuck would they know? But there's that whole freaking scenario that also went down around about that time. Situation A, which was pretty much like what the first meeting. That's where I signed the contract. But then there was situation B or 2 that took place, and that brought a lot of attention to that entire situation, because that whole situation. Oh boy, wow, like wow. Because now it's like, well, we're not lying, and it's like, you're lying, and it's like, no, I'm not lying, you're lying, and it's like, well, we're two of the people, and that caused a whole big riff. And I mean a riff. Like, I mean, you want to talk about riff? You want to talk about riff thing? Okay, how about this? Fucking the police show up to the courts. So do the sheriffs. And now the police are ready to arrest the sheriffs, and the sheriffs are ready to arrest the police. Okay? And then they want to arrest this person with the paperwork, and then this person wants them arrested for trying to freaking arrest. It was insane. Okay? That's that. And I'm not even going to go into the whole spirituality part of the, like the Grim Reaper showing up or anything. You know what I'm saying? With already there. But the point being, that was just fucking, I was just like, the fuck? I don't know, man. Very, very good. You don't really see very much. Trust me. You don't see very much when that happens. Does everybody hear the sound before it happens? I'm just wondering. Is that anyway, so yeah, so that was a whole interesting thing. And then there was the book and the videos that I made the other day, and I started uploading. I just took them down, and I'm like, because my head has been all over the place from here to there, and it's like, and what's most important, and that's what I'm saying. It's crazy. This whole thing was crazy. It's like. So I get served the paperwork on the 21st, and they tell me I have 14 days, and I'm like, oh, okay, 14 days. And let me guess, there's a holiday, right? Oh, tell me there's some sort of freaking, no, 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 no. National freaking, oh god, if there's a fucking national, the point being is that it's like with all the things that, and then there was the other things that are also that I'm saying to myself. It's like, so up, it's like a call that I get, and I'm like, wow, man. I'm like, I know that this should be the fucking call over here, and then it's like I went for a walk, and it was funny to watch the person like kind of get discombobbled a little bit with the cup in his hand, because as I was walking past him, I'm just like, should I do it? I'm like, yeah. And then I said something like, I said one of two things. I might have said out loud, just to mention the fucking. That's what I'm saying. It's like the whole time I was sitting there saying it over and over. I'm like, it's you, isn't it? I'm like, I was standing at this freaking, and I'm like, it's you, isn't it? And I kept saying a certain specific name, and I'm just like, it's like, whatever, man. It was just funny to watch, like, as I walked past the bodyguard. I'm pretty sure that was the bodyguard, right? You kidding me, right? That was the bodyguard. That was the bodyguard, right, man? The one little straggler out there all by himself. Oh my god. Stop it. No, it's like I bet he would. I bet he would have freaking cleaned my clock. I bet he would have. But I'm just like, and I walk, and as I'm walking past, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, something. I said, nothing's for $1 no more. Some shit, and I was like, You know, I don't know if I said it or not out loud. I know I was saying it. I'm like, should I do it? And then I was like, what an, and I said a certain name, and then I was like, what an asshole. And then I just walked out, you know? Nothing's for $1 no more. It's the truth or something. It was, I don't know how much I said out loud and what I didn't say. I just know that just by me stopping right there and just like and it was it's like I caught myself. I caught the cup. I caught the lid. You know, and it's like, oh man, you're gonna no, it's not. It's that's the whole point. It's like it's there's not much I can sit there and say anymore. Because I can barely freaking I this has been the way it's been for that's what I'm saying. It's like it is fucking the weirdest thing to sit there and even the times that I worked fucking the spare time or whatever part time or fucking this and that or training or whatever the fuck it was with the other guy. And it's like bro, it's like my feet are fucked up. Like he was like and it's like, you know, it's like it's not funny, man. I'm 30 years old, bro. My feet shouldn't be this fucked up at 30 years old. And they were fucked up before that. And now I'm not even, you know, give me a break. And it's like I can barely walk 4 miles. And it depends. Sometimes I can walk fucking the 4 miles. And sometimes and that's it. That's it. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's beyond fucking crazy. That's beyond crazy. And then to think like it just chooses when. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with it. It chooses when it does this. Don't ask. I don't know. And then the next day I can barely walk on my fucking leg. Like I can barely walk on my foot is what I'm saying. It's crazy. So that's that. And I don't know what to say right now. You know, because my head was so angry over all the other stuff that I started to remember and realize. And I'm like, you know, then there's the friend that's going in for certain things, and